Hello, welcome to City News International. I'm Annika Ostman.
And I'm Alsaker. In the programme today, we'll be discussing the situation in the Middle East,
whether the last page has been turned on books,
and how women are still splashing out billions on cosmetics.
But first, here's Veronique Fort with today's main headlines.
The Archbishop of Canterbury has criticised the coalition government policies in an editorial published today in the New Statesman magazine. He claimed the government is forcing through radical policies for which no one voted. He also strongly criticised Cameron's Big Society. Downing Street dismissed the Archbishop's criticism on the matter. A wildfire which started 11 days ago in the state of Arizona blazed out of control and forced thousands of residents out of their homes. The fire ranks as the region's second largest on record. As many as 11,000 people have been displaced. No injuries have been reported. The chief prosecutor for the International Criminal Court said today that there was evidence that Colonel al-Gaddafi has ordered the rape of hundreds of women as a weapon of war against rebel forces. There has been no comment on the allegation from the Libyan authorities. Western and Arab nations are to meet in Abu Dhabi today to discuss the future of Libya. Hillary Clinton will be taking part in the talks. The UK and France have presented a draft UN resolution condemning Syria's suppression of protest. They demand an immediate end to violence and access for humanitarian workers. Russia said it may use its veto power to block it. Hundreds of Syrians have fled into Turkey to escape an expected crackdown.
Thanks, Veronique. Syria is our top story today. Opposition forces in the country say the government is continuing its military clampdown on protesters. According to reports, hundreds have been killed since demonstrations began in March. In London, Syrians have been taking to the streets every week to show their support for protesters at home. But there are also voices in favour of President Bashar al-Assad. Our reporter Ole Kamper has more.
In Westminster, Syrians have gathered to show their support of the demonstrations back home. Rights groups say that more than 1,100 people have been killed since the revolt against al-Assad erupted in mid-March. They say protesters still face atrocities from government forces. In Westminster, Syrians have gathered to show their support of the demonstrations back home. Rights groups say that more than 1,100 people have been killed since the revolt against al-Assad erupted in mid-March. They say protesters still face atrocities from government forces.
They're still being shot at, people are still being detained randomly, people are still being tortured. The situation is very bad, I guess.
On the other side of the fence, pro-government supporters gathered at the Syrian embassy in London. They say all the news is manipulated to suit the protesters' purpose and that President Assad should stay. They suggest that external parties are to be blamed for the chaos.
They were preparation for it, months in advance, to jump on the demonstrator and to make it revolution. Not revolution, they want anarchy.
But anti-government protesters banish this theory. They say President Assad's rule has been one of tyranny and suppression. They say all they're protesting for are basic values like human rights and freedom. According to them, they are not influenced by any external forces.
I can assure you, I'm not manipulated by 10 Downing Street or by the foreign state, of the US. We've got simple requests: freedom, democracy, the ability to live with dignity. You don't need foreign people to manipulate you in order to request that.
A rise in unemployment and anti-government sentiment have been the chief factors in ushering the Arab Spring in Syria. But almost 3 months on, the Assad government is still in power. The question is whether Syria will follow the successes of similar revolutions in Egypt and Tunisia, or be on the brink of civil war like Libya. Ole Kamper, City News International.
To discuss the latest on the Middle East, we're joined in the studio by our correspondent Sama Atawil. Tell me, Sama, reports are saying that people are now fleeing in northern parts of Syria. What is the situation on the Turkish border?
The latest numbers say that about 1,500 people have crossed the border from Syria to Turkey in the last 24 hours. the majority of these people are living Jisr al-Shughul, which is a city in the north part of Syria, and this city has witnessed bloody days in the last week. People coming from this area are saying that they are leaving and the city is almost empty of its people because the government has announced that there will be a military assault against what they called armed gangs in the area.
And with the people entering Turkey, what's the reaction from the Turkish government?
Well, the Prime Minister said yesterday very obviously, very clearly, that Turkey would not close its doors to Syria, to the refugees from Syria. However, if the numbers would increase, that might cause some problems, some logistic problems to the authorities on ground.
And what has the reaction been from the international community in this latest Syrian development?
Britain and France yesterday submitted a draft resolution during a meeting in the UN Security Council to condemn Syria. And this resolution is still on debate in the Council, and it is supposed to be put to vote within days in the United Nations. However, countries like China and Russia have already threatened with veto.
With the recent Libyan situation, the Security Council agreed on the resolution. Why is this situation different?
Well, it seems Syria is different because, as Russia and China say, any UN Council involvement in Syria could destabilize the whole area. Also, we shouldn't forget that Russia is an arms supplier to Syria and also a very old ally. And the countries who have supported military operation in Libya are now less keen to see the same scenario in Syria because some of them are saying that the operation in Libya wasn't successful, civilians are still killed, and Gaddafi is still in power.
Thank you. Sama Atawil.
The UK Attorney General has warned that users of Twitter must not breach injunction orders or they could be prosecuted for contempt of court. The warning comes after a super injunction row in which an anonymous Twitter user posted the names of celebrities who've been asked for gagging orders to hide their private lives. A super injunction prohibits anyone from publishing information about the applicant that's said to be confidential or private. It also prevents anyone from reporting that the junction even exists. Earlier today, I spoke with George Brock, former editor of The Times, about the controversy surrounding the issue. So, can you tell me, what do you think the recent statement by the UK Attorney General will mean for the credibility of super injunctions?
I think that the Attorney General was doing what Attorney Generals have to do, which is to try and make the law work well. But he would know that in a digital world, making injunctions stick is a bit harder than it used to be. It's harder, but it isn't impossible. Don't forget that there are quite a lot of injunctions in existence, whether they happen to be super or not, and they're not being interfered with by people on Twitter. They're working just like the law designed them.
So do you think this is an end to the debate with him issuing this statement, or will it continue?
Well, I think that it's probably an end to the debate about super injunctions. I think judges are going to be very careful about how they use them. Don't forget there was a very senior judge made a report the other day which, in rather coded language, basically said to judges, hang on a minute, you're overdoing this, you're issuing too many super injunctions, only use them in very rare, very drastic circumstances. So there's going to be much less fuss about super injunctions. Privacy in general, I think we're only at the beginning of quite a big debate.
So do you think super injunctions should be scrapped?
No, I don't think super injunctions should necessarily be scrapped, because I think there's always a possibility that you're going to find a threat to somebody's privacy which is of a kind where only a super injunction will solve it. But as that judge said the other day, the number of occasions where that's going to happen, it's going to be very, very, very small.
And some argue, that celebrities put themselves in the public eye and therefore, they sort of give up some of their privacy. Do you think that they sort of deserve what super injunctions gives them?
One of the misuses of super injunctions usually is to use such a drastic measure for something like a celebrity. Now, we can argue a lot about exactly whether or not a celebrity deserves any form of privacy, and if so, what. But a super injunction is unlikely to be a weapon that is any good if the person is a celebrity. Those are exactly the circumstances in which an injunction like that is not going to work.
And just briefly, could you maybe give us a comment on the recent developments on the phone hacking scandal?
I think it's going to run for quite a long time yet, because these cases have some way to go. And don't forget that there are, I think it's 5 of them, are going to be grouped into criminal trial in January. So we're going to learn a lot more. It's it's turned into a very long soap opera, and of course it goes on damaging the newspaper that was doing it.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming in today.
You're welcome.
Since most of the injunctions involve celebrities, we asked Londoners whether those in the spotlight should expect the right to privacy.
Yes, I believe that celebrities should have a right to privacy because they're human beings, and every human being should have a right to privacy.
I don't think they should have a right to privacy, because if you want to do certain stuff, then you should expect for the consequences to come back to you. So why should you have privacy? If you're a celebrity, you're going to be in the limelight anyway, so you shouldn't have privacy.
I think they have a right to sue if something is said against them which causes them loss in the legal system, but I don't think they have a right to privacy per se.
I think they should, as long as it doesn't affect the public, but if the public needs to be involved, then I guess we should know about things.
And now Alessandra Bonamolo has the international business news.
Thanks, Annika. The oil price has jumped after the world's key producers failed to reach an agreement to increase the oil production despite tight supplies and rising prices. This comes as the latest figures from BP show that oil consumption has risen by its fastest rate last year. BMW has announced a plan to invest £500 billion in the UK car production over the next 3 years. The money will go into the making of the next generation Mini model, protecting more than 5,000 jobs. The US economy has slowed down in a number of states for the first time this year. The Federal Reserve's figures show a slow growth in the manufacturing sector. Amazon customers are now buying more e-books than printed ones. The world's largest online retailer has revealed that its e-book sales outstripped hard copies by 5% in the past few weeks. The surge in e-book sales is credited in its part to its new low-price Kindle. Fabio Forin went to discover what makes e-books so appealing.
Are paper books a thing of the past? This is the question that everybody in the publishing industry would like to know the answer. As bookstores are struggling and sales are going down, more and more people prefer to read their books on computers and digital devices, especially Amazon customers. In the last 2 months, the world's largest online bookseller has sold 105 electronic books for every 100 printed ones. The main reason for the rising popularity of e-books is the Kindle Reader, a digital device launched by Amazon 3 years ago that enables people to carry their personal library with them all the time. But does reading on a screen give you the same pleasure as flipping pages with your own fingers? Jeremy Cranswick has been working in one of the oldest bookshops of London for the last 20 years. He thinks that coming into a bookshop and feeling the books, it's a unique and mystical experience, something that readers won't give up ever.
And that kind of experience doesn't happen on Amazon, for example. You can open a book and look at it, but that kind of added dimension is just not there. I must say, as an older person, I'm 59, perhaps I'm a little old-fashioned, but I do feel a lot of other people, not just older people, but younger people, who in some way are aware of this sort of dimension, as you might call the physicality or the human dimension of the book.
Despite Jeremy's optimism, the future of printed books looks gloomy. Recent figures show that paperback sales have dropped by almost 20% since the beginning of the year. But people in the street still seem to be enjoying reading books in a traditional way.
If you're on a beach or something, it's the kind of way you connect with the book, just the whole feel of the book in your hand, where you can fold over the page.
I personally prefer books. I think they're beautiful collector's objects, and I don't much like reading from a screen.
It's 50p. It's like you have pages coming out. It's just a real book. It's the pleasure.
Print books have been with us for centuries. Their end has been predicted many times, and now e-book readers are the new threat. But it seems they will manage to survive once again. Fabio Forin for City News International.
And the South Bank Book Fair runs every weekend. On to our health and lifestyle section. A recent survey by Cancer Research UK says the number of women diagnosed with breast cancer is continuing to rise. The figures show that 1 in 8 women is now likely to develop the disease during their lifetime. According to the research, lifestyle factors such as excessive drinking can increase this risk. Our reporter Sarah Hemorajani went to a special fundraising event to find out more.
In May, more than 15,000 walkers gathered in central London for an event called the Moonwalk. It's an all-night marathon where people from across the world try to raise awareness and money for breast cancer. Wearing decorated bras and outfits are trademarks of the charity, and men also show their support by dressing up.
It's quite comfortable actually. It feels quite natural, yeah. It's a new trend.
The organisers had arranged free music and food to motivate the walkers.
In Hyde Park right now, the atmosphere is electric. Young, old, male, female, everyone's here to raise money for a good cause.
But even though there are many events like this, a new study by Cancer Research says the number of women who are diagnosed with breast cancer is increasing. According to specialists, lifestyle factors are mainly to blame for the disease.
With alcohol and also with smoking, that they need to, when they're younger, make, the lifestyle choices rather than wait till they're a certain age and then start thinking about it.
Cancer Research says 1 in 8 women are now at risk of developing breast cancer. It encourages women above the age of 40 to go for regular screenings.
I have sadly now got to the age where I have friends and family who have been touched by breast cancer in various different ways. And I think if you can just encourage women to check themselves regularly, don't dismiss things, because especially women tend to put themselves on the back burner and think, oh, I'll check it later, it'll be fine. Go to the doctors and get yourself checked.
Because of this, studies show that survival rates are improving.
Far more people are surviving it now, and the key things are early diagnosis and having the right treatment. So to do a walk like this, basically when I start to feel down at about mile 13 to 18, I remember why I'm doing it.
The Moonwalk raised over £2 million, and the next breast cancer fundraiser will be held in July. This is Sarah Hemorajani for City News International.
Sticking with the subject of women, new research reveals how deep their relationship with cosmetics really runs. An organisation called Debt Charity Citizens says that shopaholic women in Britain are increasingly in debt because of extravagant spending. It's estimated that £1 billion was spent in the last year on beauty products in spite of the recession. Monica Ainley reports.
The colours and the textures, the shapes and sizes, and of course, the packaging. Sometimes it's hard to resist. The focus group Labelle found that women would rather give up coffee, chocolate, and sex than their favorite beauty product. But taking looks so seriously can get seriously expensive. In tough economic times, it's hard to say what drives women to spend so much on cosmetics.
You always want to kind of look expensive to your friends and the people you're with. And so if you have a makeup bag full of really amazing brands such as Chanel, Gucci, Bobbi Brown, NARS, those kind of things, I think not only are they better quality, not only do they give you the whole oh, I've got such a great bag of makeup, but also, I don't know, I just think they're so much nicer to have than something that's going to fall apart, which they do.
This beauty expert says that like anything else, you get what you pay for. In the case of the UK, that's £1 billion, according to research group Mintel.
But can you really tell the difference between expensive makeup and the cheap stuff? One side of my face, this side, cost under £30 to make up, while the left side cost over 100. Let's see if people can see the difference.
Say that was more expensive side.
This size chip one?
Mm-hmm. This side is expensive, the other side is
you think
cheap.
This side is with the expensive one.
The left side?
This side's the expensive side. You think the left side is the expensive side?
Turns out most men can't tell. Wonder who we're trying to impress.
That was Monica Ainley reporting. Still coming up on our programme, a chat about Formula 1 races.
And the weather forecast to help plan your weekend.
Before that, we have all the news from the exciting world of art and entertainment with Dalia Lorenzo and Seina Erheim.
Thank you, Ula. Harry Potter fans in London have something to celebrate. The British Film Institute has announced it will hold all-night screenings of the entire film series at its IMAX cinema. Fans are invited to dress up as wizards and witches for the special occasion. The final Harry Potter movie opens in cinemas across the world on July 15th.
Talking about books, a Serbian-American author has become the youngest ever winner of the prestigious Orange Prize for Fiction. Writer T. Aubrey is just 25 years old. Her novel called The Tiger's Wife is about a doctor's journey through the war-torn countries of the Balkans. She says it was inspired by tales her grandfather told her as a child.
And onto music. Kylie Minogue is the latest pop star to release a 3D film of her world tour. Producers say it captures the Australian singer performing to a packed-out O2 Arena in April this year. 2,000 screens will show the film in the UK on June 19th, but for one night only. Is there any other news on music, Zaina?
Yes, but it's not a very good news for American hip-hop artist Ja Rule. He's been sentenced to 2 years in prison on a gun charges by a court in New York. The multi-platinum rapper and actor pleaded guilty to attempted criminal weapons possessions after police found a gun in his car in 2007. And back to the studio.
Thank you, Dahlia and Zaina. Despite budget cuts hitting the arts, British museums are continuing to go ahead with expensive facelifts. The Museum of the Home has received a multi-million-pound grant from the Heritage Lottery Fund. The fund takes money from the National Lottery and puts it toward cultural projects in the UK. Our reporter, Liz Holliday, has more.
The Jeffrey Museum received an approximate 15% cut in funding from the government this year alone. To make up for the cut, the museum applied and received a £10 million grant from the Heritage Lottery Fund. The director of the museum says non-governmental funding will be more and more necessary in the future of museums.
The government has to make difficult decisions because it's a bad time economically around the world. So, and unless the world economy grows and there's more money, then the future of publicly funded museums is likely to be that the government proportion is going to be somewhat reducing overall as a proportion of the whole. It doesn't mean to say museums are going to get less overall, it just means we're going to have to be cleverer about where we get the money from.
The money will go towards an expansion project to make up for the increase in the number of visitors. The positive trend is in part thanks to better transportation and development in the East London area where the museum is located. The aim is to make the museum a more interactive experience.
There's always something else behind it with the restoration. It's not just make it pretty, it's make it available to the public, make it available for educational purposes.
With the grant in place, the Jeffrey will still have to raise roughly £3 million to complete the project. They are already making money through their cafe and gift shop, but additional funding will be necessary if they want to complete the project as scheduled by 2015. Liz Holliday, City News International.
What is believed to be the UK's largest ever exhibition of student art has opened in East London. The fair includes works of fashion, photography and interior design. It will showcase the works of over 3,000 students from the UK's top universities and will be open throughout July. Our reporter Clémentine Blayot went to have a look.
A few minutes left to the big moment. Fashion graduate students from Croydon College are preparing themselves for the show. They believe it is their great chance to show their creativity and enter the professional world.
It's really high competition in England, and universities and design courses here are among the best in the world. So we just do our best and keep the competitors healthy. So I've been having a look at some of the other shows as well, but hopefully we'll stand up to them and we'll be as good. So yeah.
Come on, first outfit.
During the show, the stage has turned into a home for various styles, materials and colors. Some designs might be suitable for wearing, but others only for looking at. One floor above, the atmosphere is less exciting, but no less creative. Art and design graduates from Middlesex University present their work and concept of modern design.
When you find a solution for a problem, I think marketing people say that, like, we don't need a drill, we need a hole. So we will find a solution for that. I enjoy these little mind games.
3,000 art and design students from the UK's top universities and art colleges are participating in this exhibition that none of them wanted to miss.
There's been tons of visitors coming through the doors, and it would be really nice for somebody to come in, recognise, see your work and like it, and sort of want to develop it further.
To have people interact with my work and ask me questions about it, it really makes me feel more sure and more confident in what I do.
The art fair is not only an opportunity for graduates to present their work, it is also a chance for visitors to meet the stars of tomorrow.
And now, from the catwalk to the racetrack, Formula One fans finally have the chance to see a long-awaited documentary about Brazilian racer Ayrton Senna.
The documentary comes 17 years after his tragic death at the Imola Grand Prix in Italy. Let's watch a short clip.
He'll be ranked among the all-time greats. How do you feel about
Ayrton has a small problem. He thinks that he can't kill himself. And I think that's very dangerous.
We are competing to win.
It was the last time either of them would be on the podium.
The documentary is out in cinemas now. Here in the studio to discuss this, we have motorsports expert Austin Lindberg. What made Ayrton Senna so special as a driver?
Well, Ayrton Senna was that once-in-a-generation combination of talent, consistency, and charisma. He won his first Grand Prix in the wet, which has always been known as the great equalizer. It's a very difficult condition to win in. He also set more poles than anyone in Formula One history until Michael Schumacher broke that record about in 2004, 2005. But Schumacher took about a third more races to accomplish that than Senna. So he was very, very quick, and then he also won 3 world championships.
And what is Senna's legacy in Formula One?
Well, Senna was he was the man who led the movement to start the Grand Prix Drivers Association, which was disbanded in 1982. He actually led the revolution to bring it back in the San Marino Grand Prix in 1994 after a fellow driver was killed in a Saturday qualifying crash. Unfortunately, he was killed before that could be taken up, but that still goes on today and was headed by Michael Schumacher and is now headed by fellow Brazilian Rubens Barrichello.
Would you say there are any similar icons in Formula One today?
It's very difficult to say just because he was such a once-in-a-generation man, but the closest would probably be Sebastian Vettel. He won the World Championship in 2010. He's on a string of poles this season, very consistently fast, and he also has a seat on the Grand Prix Drivers Association board.
Well, thank you for being with us, Austin. Now to the sports headlines with Habiba Bassioni.
Thank you, Annika. It's been a controversial week in sports. Speaking of Formula One, officials in Bahrain have criticized the U-turn in the debate about Bahrain Grand Prix taking place. They say the governing body of the Motorsport Association, FIA, had agreed to put the race back in this season's calendar for October. But yesterday, Formula One boss Bernie Ecclestone suggested that the race might not take place after all. Some teams say they feared civil unrest in the Gulf state. And Blackburn defender Phil Jones is set to join Manchester United in a deal said to be worth about £16 million. The promising 19-year-old was a popular choice for many top clubs, and Liverpool was long seen as the favourite to sign the under-21 player. But with the latest bid, Manchester manager Alex Ferguson is likely to lure him to Old Trafford. And finally, English cyclist Bradley Wiggins has become the overall lead at the Dauphiné Libéré. The team Sky leader finished the 3rd stage as second, taking him to the top of the Tour. Back to you, Ole.
Thank you, Habiba. The weather recently has been unpredictable. To help us plan for the weekend, we have Natalie. Hello, Natalie. How is the sky looking today?
Well, it's not summer yet. Today, scattered showers in western parts of the UK will spread eastward throughout the day. In some places, they'll be heavy, so keep your umbrella at hand. The most sunshine we'll be seeing is a bit of a clearing later over eastern Britain. Then guess what? More rain overnight. Temperatures will feel cool with a light westerly breeze and a high of about 13 degrees in the south. But it seems the sun's busy shining elsewhere. If you're traveling to New York, you're looking at sunshine and a high of 27 degrees today. Rome will be sunny with a high of 23 degrees. In Paris, there'll be a mix of sun and cloud with a high of 21 degrees. In Hong Kong, there'll be scattered clouds and a high of 32 degrees. And in Johannesburg, a cloudy high of 10 degrees. Back to you.
Thank you, Natalie. You've been watching City News International.
We hope you've enjoyed the programme. Have a nice day.
Goodbye.